Boris Johnson has expressed his frustration at the failure to move the stalled Brexit negotiations on to the next phase, as Theresa May appeared to be running out of time to secure a breakthrough. The Foreign Secretary is reported to have voiced doubts in Cabinet about May's plan to promise some form of regulatory alignment with the EU, in an attempt that has so failed to move the talks forward. Speaking on his way to a NATO summit in Brussels on Wednesday, Johnson suggested the issues could only be resolved in the next phase of the talks. The best way to sort it out is to get on to the second phase of the negotiations, where all these difficult issues can be properly teased out, thrashed out and solved, he told Sky News. He added, "What we are going to do, as the Prime Minister has repeatedly said, we are going to take back control of our borders, of our laws and UK cash contributions, and that's the way forward. And we will come up with a solution, but that solution can only be discovered in the context on discussion on the end state of the UK's relations with the rest of the EU." The Prime Minister had hoped to be heading back to Brussels as early as Wednesday after reassuring the DUP on the wording of the draft text that it vetoed on Monday. Instead, the DUP is demanding radical surgery to the draft, leaving May facing an awkward Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday, with little prospect of a breakthrough. The DUP leader, Arlene Foster, is understood to have refused to take May's phone calls to discuss rewording the text of a draft agreement. Meanwhile, the pound has fallen against the dollar, adding pressure on May to reach a deal. The shadow Brexit Secretary, Keir Starmer, said it was impossible for May to insist there could be no hard border in Northern Ireland and rule out membership of the Customs Union, the single market and the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. Inside the EU, both Ireland and Northern Ireland, as part of the UK, are part of the single market and customs union, so share the same regulations and standards. The only way to avoid a hardening of the border after Brexit is to ensure regulations and standards on both sides remain more or less the same in areas like food, medicines and so on. This might imply a permanent acceptance of EU rules, something that would be anathema to hardline UK Brexiters and the DUP, who reject anything that would decouple the North from the UK. David Davis told Parliament that regulatory alignment would not mean adopting exactly the same rules as the EU but mutually recognised rules and inspections. However, an official in Brussels countered that regulatory alignment would mean that the UK would have to implement rules from Brussels without having any influence over them. Speaking on BBC Radio 4's Today programme, he said, "It is very hard to see how you can reconcile those two positions, and that's why the government has got into such a contorted position that unravelled this week." He added, "We think there should be a UK-wide Brexit approach. The government has made a mistake in suggesting there will be one option for Ireland that might be separate from the rest of the United Kingdom, and that's unravelled."